We gotta clap once it's
What's up? Welcome to BnG Supercast. Episode 6. You are our second official guest.
All right, I'm honored.
Yeah, it's an honor to have you, man. Appreciate it.
Thank you for coming.
Very cool. So,
I'll shake your hand later.
All right. Well, you already did shake it earlier, so
Okay,
that's good.
True.
So, Mr. Peter Casaletto, otherwise known as Profe. Is this right?
Yes.
Are these details
By my
accurate?
students. Yeah, that is true.
Many
Very
names.
cool.
Mm-hmm.
So, Josh and
Yes.
Gabe, you guys had Mr. Peter, I should say, Profe, right, as a teacher. So why don't you guys, introduce him a little bit?
Oh, where to begin?
Spanish?
Yeah,
You
Spanish.
gotta say it in Spanish, though.
No.
Yeah, show us your Spanish skills.
En mi clase de español.
Exactamente.
So I guess since I was his student first, I'll go first. My first memories of Profe were third year, because first year I didn't do Spanish, which is a choice I regret because I heard your AP Spanish course was awesome. But so I think third year was right around when I wanted to get into some sort of sport, because this was right around when I kind of woke up to the fact that I was very out of shape physically, and versus now where I'm still out of shape, but at least I look better. And so I was looking around for sports because I wanted something that would get me in shape. And I just kind of heard people talking about like, oh yeah, Profe coaches cross country. And I'm like, cross country, what's that? And like, I didn't really put two and two together what it was. Well, yeah, like, cause like I heard
backpacking.
Right. So this is the level of like obliviousness I had as a kid. I was like, I didn't know some things that were like probably supposed to be basic. Yeah. I was just kind of like wide-eyed. Yeah, I was kind of wide-eyed. Yeah. But so anyway, so I was like, oh, cross country. Like, what's that? It's like, oh, you just do a lot of running. It's like, oh, okay, cool. And so I go to Profe. I'm like, hey, I think I might like to try cross country, right? And
what was your reaction?
That is a good question. I'm always willing to get a new
were
guy.
very enthusiastic.
I mean, I see cross country as a chance to disciple people, so it's like, all right, give this guy a chance.
Yeah.
I mean, you had your homeschool reputation too. And so we could bring you out of your shell.
Yeah, I was still in my shell, I think, for sure. I'd never really been on a team sport, or really a sport in general, but like the camaraderie of cross country and afterwards in track was great. Getting to run practices and races with people, you build up that like mutual feeling of like, oh, we're all in this together, and like cross country I think is cool because I didn't have a lot of faith in my coordination physically, at least in high school. And so like all the ball sports like basketball and stuff where like you don't catch this and pass it right, then you screw the whole team up. But in cross country it's just like just run as hard as you can, and that's all you really have to do, It was straightforward. So
I want to set a little bit of context because I feel like you guys are very familiar, with one another, but maybe for people who like don't know, you've been teaching for 30 years, right?
A little over.
Has it always been at ECA or?
Besides my student teaching, which was not, but yes.
Wow. So
Yeah.
At one place.
Yeah.
That's pretty amazing. I feel like that's kind of
a long time.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's pretty incredible. Like most people don't stay at the same place for 30 years.
No, they don't.
They gave you a nice bonus, right?
He's like, we're not supposed to talk about that.
cut that footage out.
Yeah, you're going to be editing
Shameless
that
plug,
out.
yeah.
No, when the Lord calls you someplace, and then the interesting thing about the way ECA works, it's a 1-year contract times 30.
Wow.
So every year it's
a
like
new thing.
So you have time to pray about it and to consider, like they hand you a contract and like, well, I don't want to sign it, or vice versa for them, like we don't want you back, we're not giving you a contract, so they don't have to fire you. So that's just the way that they do it. And it just seems like God still has like, even though I'm old, I can still be effective, and so I feel like I should sign it.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
Until he says something else.
Yeah.
Well, you're
Right.
hardly old.
Right. But compared to when I started at 22 and I still
Sure.
looked like I was one of
the students.
I
Yeah.
was
You look like
on
one of
day
the
on
students.
day one.
Yeah.
People
From
are like,
a
"Oh, you're the new kid."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nope.
No.
Nope. Sit down.
Yeah, you were like the Abagnale Catch Me If You Can
Yeah,
thing where he
yeah.
pretends to be a teacher.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Very cool. So, did you always know that you wanted to be a teacher, or like what inspired you?
Yeah, it would definitely
Yeah.
be my own teachers. I went to a
Okay.
small Christian school, and they really had an impact. They discipled me, and I didn't necessarily want to be a teacher. I wanted to have the impact that they had on me with teaching, coaching, and I also worked with them. So similar, like the relational discipleship
Totally.
approach to teaching. And I can remember also sitting in Spanish 1, and I did not have a particular connection with that teacher, but I remember sitting in there going, I could teach this. And then I went to Spanish 2 and failed.
Oh,
Spanish 2,
wow,
had to
yeah.
retake Spanish 2 with the same teacher after I'd failed
Wow.
after another year of Spanish 1, and I was like, all right, I have worked so hard, I gotta keep this up. So
Yeah.
I don't know that I always wanted to be a teacher, but then since I've been a teacher, see that, that's something that God's given me an
Totally.
ability to have inroads with people's hearts. So I want to pursue it.
Interesting. So the students that come into ECA, like Gabe, you came from a homeschooled background and
Yeah.
stuff, and I imagine you guys get
That we do get
Students
a
of all-
variety.
yeah.
Variety.
Yeah.
There's different stereotypes, and Gabe at the time, I can remember little Gabe.
Oh,
Gabe.
boy.
I probably shouldn't tell stories, but I mean, and Gabe was in a class with boys that were savage,
Really?
mean.
Really?
boys.
They were mean, and they were
Yeah.
mean to him. What was that? You weren't in my class, but you could hear them. They were yelling something in the hall. That there was some kind of chant they made in the hall, but it was making fun of you somehow. I can't even remember. Do you know what this
Gabe's
was?
like, that was a repressed
I was gonna
memory.
say you're unlocking something.
Yeah, I know.
You're
I don't even
unlocking a
remember what it was,
repressed
but I was like,
memory.
these guys.
I liked to think fondly of high school.
Okay,
Profe.
sure. All right. Anyway,
No. But like
they were mean to Gabe.
they were mean.
Wow.
Like literally,
like all out mean.
literally, like I think there were a few cool people there. But
Steve.
yeah, Steve was cool
On
for
guys.
sure.
The girls were wonderful. Sorry,
Yeah.
guys,
the girls,
if you're watching.
the girls
this.
were great. Honestly, like I sat at their table
are
like
like,
twice
"I'm okay."
over the course of the whole year because
No,
I was afraid of girls.
No, the opposite.
Really?
The opposite. Maybe Gabe is a looker now, but
Yeah.
back then he was just he was,
I was
little,
doughy, little.
little,
Yeah, he's
doughy,
like, I
Yeah.
want some cheese.
doughy. He
I was like, so
little.
you girls sit here all the time?
Not very
come here
naive,
often?
very
Yeah.
naive,
Oh, yeah.
and quirky.
Yeah.
But
You guys watch anime?
but anyway, as a teacher, you learned like different like everyone, especially if you're in the kingdom, everyone has something to offer. So like, yeah, there's quirks, but those make you interesting.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. That's what makes you unique.
And I was very interesting. Yeah.
Gabe, so really, all the bullying I did to you as a kid, that really was just a favor, really.
You were just getting me
I
ready.
was
The
giving you
prep
that,
work.
Gabe.
No, there was.
preparing.
Oh man, this is supposed to be about Profe.
Oh, that's right.
What the heck?
Backtrack.
But no, but like but yeah, like I mean, I grew so much from cross country and the character pushing. I remember still vividly my first practice with you guys.
Yeah, what do you remember about it?
Well, here's what I remember. Okay, I remember the end. Yeah. It was all a blur up to that point. No, but like, so before then, I was kind of like somewhat training. I was like, oh man, today I'll run a mile. Oh, that was hard. Then I was like, oh, okay, today I'll run 1.5 miles. Oh man, this is crazy. You know? But then, and so then I'm finally like start this. Okay, I don't know how good I'll be. Maybe I'll be in varsity. We'll see. And then I run, and I'm like, I do my first practice. Like, okay, guys, we're gonna run. What'd you say? Run 3 miles or 5 miles? It was a lot, and I was like, wait, what? This is practice. And then I remember I finished like the improvised mini run that Profe realized I needed. Like 1 mile into the run, like you kind of, I feel like you assessed where I was at, and you were like, okay, this is where Gabe's at. I'm gonna say, hey, Gabe, at the 3 mile mark or whatever, you can stop. And you're just gonna, head back to where we all like met up. I'm like, okay. And then we get to the 3 mile mark, and I think you were like, hold on, keep going. Let's get to the top of this hill.
Oh, okay.
And that was the moment where I was like, I hate you. In my mind, I'm like, I hate this man. And yeah.
But you found the will to do it.
Yeah.
I did. And I got to the top and I was like, ugh, I felt so like completely exhausted.
Was that junior year or senior year?
Junior year.
Junior year. Okay.
But then I was like, after that, I realized like, man, like I pushed myself harder than I've pushed myself before. And the feeling of putting your all into something, even if you're not like amazing at it, there's something very rewarding about going all the way. Because you get this feeling of like investment. Like you're really like it. I don't know. Like there's a commitment. There's something about committing to something and seeing it through for a period where
builds character.
it builds you. Yeah, it builds you up.
I have a question for you. Like, how do you find the line between pushing someone past their comfort zone and like not doing too much or not doing too little? Like, how do you find that balance?
You don't. In Profe's case, you push.
No,
I'm just kidding.
And eventually they break.
It's probably, I would say it's probably like some kind of a gift of knowing maybe where people are at and know, like, I mean, it's hard. It's hard to know like who's like if you don't know the person at all, who's a complaining person and you know where they're at. And like I knew some of his background of not, you know, having not having phys ed. I didn't think that of him. Not having phys ed class. So like anything that we would have said would be scary to him. So I guess you try to assess as much as you can and then say, all right, we're gonna just like take it like a step and a half
measure.
past what you I see. So but you have to like have that like sensor of like, okay, going beyond the stink.
It's kind of a gift, kind of like you're saying, almost like discerning, almost like where someone's at.
Yeah, and maybe it's just because I've been teaching for years, or maybe it's just innate of like, hey, that person that's getting a C in your class, I'm super proud of them because I just feel like that is all they can do. So there are people that can trick you, but generally speaking, I feel like I know when someone's given their best and when they're not.
Interesting. What has been the most challenging part of being a teacher for you? I know there's probably a lot of things.
Boy. Well, it's complete accountability. Your life is accountability. You know, you accountability partner. Yeah, it's like a class of people, and I can't stand the thought of being a hypocrite. So you have to do what you say you do, and you have to live it out. So that's a good thing. But I mean, it's hard. You're on duty, and then now I guess a hard thing is like walking out in public and somebody knows you, and you're like,
"What's your name?"
And they just jump right into the conversation, and like,
it'll come back.
Yeah.
Are you? I always felt like you seemed a little more not shy. You seem more introverted. Like you were very good at speaking. You were a very good communicator, but maybe just like personality wise, like you lean a little bit more toward the introvert side.
It could be that. So I can have the persona in front. I wouldn't call it fake, but you have to have like that character, that persona in front of the class and to draw people in. But I'm okay with being alone for a day, 2 days. I don't have to have interaction with people, but then I do have to once I
after certain
get away
amount.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of like celebrity status, you know? You're like Keanu Reeves. Like someone walks up like, oh my gosh, I've heard about you, you know?
There is, but I mean, obviously not so dramatic. It's nice to not be. I would not want to be one of those people because it is hard enough to like you're someplace at a store and people know who you are. Yeah. I would hate to like
just walking out of
right
your
now.
house.
All I have to do is go. You know, if I just cross the border into Michigan, like okay, nobody knows. That's a good feeling. But if you were some celebrity, that would be awful.
Yeah,
every restaurant, everywhere,
no
people,
privacy.
Correct.
And like sometimes there's probably the opposite problem of people you know really well who just sort of after school you just never hear from them again, right?
That does happen too. One of the things in my life is I don't really have lots of friends. I haven't invested since college, and then so like these guys become my friends for
Friends
4
in a
years
way,
were spending
yeah.
an hour a day running together. They're in my class. We're, messaging on, hey, we've got to focus a goal. And then they graduate and leaves me. And I got to start all over again.
That's so heartbreaking.
I don't mean that to be heartbreaking.
No, I
Yeah.
know. It's
But
yeah.
it just I guess I invest more time into that, into the children, into the youth,
And it shows.
than into somebody my age
Yeah.
or not.
Well, and we feel that. I would say what I got from being on the team, being on cross country, and I think also from your Spanish classes, I got a lot from that wasn't just the main focus. Like, it wasn't just Spanish. It wasn't just cross country. It was building character and, team camaraderie, dude. Like, for anyone who doesn't, who's listening, who's not in a sport.
For any of you nerds out
For
there.
any of you who are alphas.
People, just so you know.
No,
But-
well, find a group. I think the main thing is you find a group of people. It can be a club or whatever.
You work together
Right.
with
Yeah.
a purpose.
Yeah, and I think something about the physicality of it, that at least for me,
Sweating together.
Yeah, suffering together.
No, that you see
Yeah.
the same thing with soldiers. People that went to war together.
Yeah.
It's true.
They had a purpose. It's not
Yeah.
necessarily a sport, but
Yeah.
they work hard together for a purpose and toward a goal.
Well, there's something unique, I think, about physically, like athletics or physically working towards something, because the body is like the manifestation of what's on our inside, right? So,
doubt.
there's something about physically doing something, manifesting that, teaching, overcoming, the hill, to push towards the top of the hill, right? I mean, how can you experience what that's like unless you do it?
Yeah, and then
Right,
you can apply
I mean-
it.
Yeah, that
yeah.
hill, it shows what you're made of, Like,
It judges your character.
it separates those who are going, I don't know.
I mean, that's the whole Dune analogy.
Yeah, it's a different level.
Yeah. Oh,
when,
yeah,
when
dude.
we're on the Dunes trip, you sort of explain it, right?
Set the scene for the dunes.
Yeah,
What is
yeah.
the dunes?
Okay, sorry, yeah, you're right. I should explain.
Yeah. He's breaking stuff.
So we do the Dunes trip every year. It's pretty much the first, right about the first thing we do at the start of the season before school starts. All the cross country people get on a bus and we head to the Warren Dunes. And Profe is driving the bus and. Yeah, and we're all being, we're all rowdy here and Bunk's just in the back.
Just gotta get there.
And it's always so funny because we all on the bus before it's let's go on the bus, guys, let's go. The parents are loading stuff. Anyway, so we get to the dunes and we do a 6-mile run on the beach, and then we go up a dune.
It's only 3 miles one way.
I know. And then Joel goes 10 miles.
Oh yeah.
We had one guy who was crazy good.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then we go on a dune, which is this. Here's the thing: it doesn't look that tall from a distance, and it's not even super steep. I mean, it's pretty steep, but it's sand.
It's sand.
And basically, based on what year you are, you go up that many times. So if you're your senior year, you do it
4 times.
Oh, I guess you do it up to 3 times. But if your first year, you do it 1 year. If you do it second year, two times. You know what I'm saying? And it's just crazy how hard it is, unless you're super super fit. It's hard for almost everyone. You feel it, and it's a decision of whether you're gonna keep pushing when you're feeling everything burning.
I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
I think I had to stop once. Because the whole point is you start off confidently, but because it's sand, it's so hard to get
and also,
a grip.
its level is like this.
Yeah, and so it gets worse and worse toward the top. And once you're getting toward the finish line, you go from how fast can I go to you're at the point where you're I just need to keep 1 foot off the ground at all times for it to count, quote unquote, right? And you're just it's just agony.
Yeah, I couldn't make it the first time I did it. Junior year. Because what I did was I didn't ever really say how I met you. I went to ECA too, starting in 6th grade, so I did cross country 6th and 7th grade. And then I quit because I was really, really bad. I was really not fit, And my coach at the time, her name is Mrs. Greer. Shout out to you.
You're watching this.
Definitely.
She's definitely watching. I'm gonna send her the link. But she was very hard on me. And that's a coaching style I think Profe does it a little differently than that. And it works for a lot of people, but for me, it did not work. I hated it. I felt like she was so mean. And it was basically like, you need to try harder or stop.
Interesting.
Because it wasn't that,
Tough love.
like, she didn't mind that I wasn't fit as much as it was, I wasn't really giving it everything. You know, I was just doing it because I liked the people and I liked,
You weren't committed.
yeah, I wasn't all in.
Yeah.
And for her, it was very much about that. She had some really talented people. Anyway, no shade thrown. But anyway, so I quit, and then it's 9th grade. I meet Profe, because I had taken Spanish 1 my 8th grade year. And I had heard legends about Profe from Gabe. I had gone on runs with him.
Myths.
With Gabe?
Yes, I got
Man,
runs with
that's a
Gabe.
legend.
Gabe would be like, Josh, we're
Horror
gonna do 2 miles
stories.
today. 2 miles was so hard for me. I did that before I had even started. It was crazy. And Gabe was like,
It's like the bunny hill.
no, I'm sure Gabe felt great because I was like, he's had to slow down for me.
Well, yeah, when I first started like running with you, because I wanted to like keep running a little bit every now and then, and I would run with Josh, who was struggling to keep up, and I was like, "Yeah, I'm fast.
I'm the big brother.
I was
I'm
like
big bro."
12, by the way.
Gibbs like, eat it, kid.
All right, I see the finish line.
You suck.
So I go in his Spanish class, and I'm great at it, obviously. And I just am sort of struck by, like, he's a really cool guy. And so sophomore year, then we have COVID, right?
Ooh.
And that was brutal.
I want to ask about that later.
Profe was, by the way, a
yeah.
highlight of that. So we did e-learning for 3 months after COVID, and Profe would always like be like just teaching. He'd be teaching inside, and all of a sudden it would just cut, and he's just in a hammock.
Wait, what?
You know, he's like,
That's
he's like, we're gonna
awesome.
go outside for this next part.
I want to see that. That sounds hilarious.
Amazing.
It's like a smash cut to the hammock.
Him, and then there's another teacher, a math teacher, Mr. Biller. He would give us, besides his lesson, he would have a morning video every morning. It was like, "Good morning, everyone. This is my dog. Say hi."
This is like their Instagram.
It basically was. And the
gosh.
saddest teacher was my English teacher at the time, Mrs. Veronic. She seemed so sad every time. I think she was really sad that like she didn't have people, and it was just hard for her. So she would turn on the camera and be like, "Yeah, we're gonna be talking about."
Well, everyone was
Romeo
locked
and Juliet.
away.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, for people who didn't
It's
have
sad.
family.
And you could hear your kids like running around in the background.
Dude,
I felt so bad
some
for
people
her.
had relatives who passed. They couldn't visit them even.
Yeah.
Like,
Yep.
It was
in
brutal.
isolation. Yeah.
Horrible.
Isolation was hard.
So
I just tried to
anyway,
make
I
it
get to
best.
sophomore year, and
Back to the important thing. Back to Josh.
Back to what matters.
and I do track with him. And Profe, I was what was your impression?
That you weren't the same legend of middle school. That you weren't.
What
you
was
were-
the legend of middle school?
Of like you were running 19-minute 3Ks and like complaining and all that, and I mean, we can work with this guy. He's not the
Yeah.
most athletic, but we can work with him. And I mean, just like even with Gabe had some talented people on his team, but I was like, we had this goal for Gabe, and it was to go under 20 minutes, right? And that was like that
still cuts me to the
so
core.
sorry, but I mean, you got to set your goal high. And
Yeah,
what did you
yeah.
hit? Like 20:01 or 20?
I hit 20:07.
Okay,
7 sec.
yeah.
Shut up, Ben.
Anyway,
Shut up.
but I mean, you know, when you started out probably at like 24 and 25, it's like
I was at 25:36.
yeah.
I think was my
Okay.
first one.
So I mean.
That's
20,
improvement.
20 oh,
2
yeah.
years.
But anyway, as a coach, you feel you feel satisfaction with some kid who makes it to state, but you also feel that like getting that kid from 25:30 to 20:07, for at least for me, for a
Yeah,
coach,
sure.
that feels good. It feels good.
There's different kind
So
of victories.
right. So with Josh,
victories.
having a bias that you know he's Gabe's brother,
Yeah.
and you know he had his
got those against him.
his, like I'm gonna do the same thing, and then I can
you
remember.
next? You start?
I think the first year that you ran track for me that I remember is that race at Churubusco.
Oh
Yeah, and like
Churubusco
like
has been my best race every year except this year. But
It was still good this year.
it was still good. Yeah, it was still a really good year. We had a PR this year, but those 2 years, it was always my best race. I loved it. I don't know what it was. I think it was because it was high pressure enough that it was like important, but not high pressure enough that I felt.
So like all the times in the race were
overwhelmed.
better
Yeah.
than Josh. Everyone in the race was better. I was like, Josh, just try to stay with this last guy. Like, try to get you under 13 minutes. Which, I mean,
Did we get there?
I think you ran like 12:40 or something.
Oh,
like
yeah,
you
yeah,
ended up.
yeah.
You beat like one or two guys. And the other thing I remember about Josh is he was very good at talking to people on the other teams. And that's another part of our goal is we don't just compete, but we want to get to know other people, shine the light of Christ. Yeah. So I remember you met a kid from, I think it was Garrett.
Yeah, I remember the Garrett kid.
Yeah. But anyway, I mean, even though like he might have got second or third to last in the race, I was super pleased with the time. I think that's one of my earlier impressions. Like, okay, if we get this kid to work consistently, he could be a contributor on our cross country team, just like his brother was.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I continued to do it. I did cross country junior year, and I think, by the way, that was a really fun cross country team. Not Dunes trip, there was like a sturgeon on the beach that was just washed up.
Oh my god.
It
And
was
like,
6 foot.
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
It was
That's
giant.
huge.
It was
Holy
huge.
cow.
And we had a really funny guy. His name was Tony.
Oh
He was the biggest character I've ever met.
Was he Italian?
He looked
He
like
looked like Italian.
if you ever seen Joni and Chachi.
How would you describe Tony,
No.
Profe?
Tony, dry, quiet humor.
No, and he was just, but yeah.
Very direct.
Yeah,
maybe
that's still
some.
good.
No, the way like someone like girl would be like talking about like, yeah, it's just really hot out, and then Tony's be like, you're bad.
Oh yeah, he would be direct.
Yeah, he was like
Maybe
he
too
was,
direct at
It
times.
was like he was very funny.
Interesting.
And he was a big encouragement.
He really was a good
Him
coach.
and Luke, I'd say, which is one of my classmates, were big encouragements for me to improve because I like it, to me straight. And Profe is nice. Like he's very direct too. I'm not saying he's not, but like they were a little. I think they were just enough mean to me. Tony and Luke were that it really like sort of lit a fire under me. Where
Yeah.
it was like
Like peer, like prodding from a peer
Yeah.
hits different.
Yeah.
Because it's like, I'll show you.
Because Profe, when you do bad, Profe just sort of has this look of disappointment on his voice.
Yeah.
Like, you start out running, it's like, go, you got it. And by the end, he's like, finish. Like, you got it.
Just get
Cross the line, please.
Oh, and like, you'll be talking to him about the race the next day. He's like, how was my race, Profe? And he's like, there's more races later.
Yeah, you never, and that's the thing is it's like, I think your way you handled coaching, and in my experience, was like, you never were like screaming like, God, like get out, like not the stereotypical high school.
It wasn't
coach,
like, it's not a football style where he's like sort of an angry, like,
yeah. It was supportive and like
it was contagious excitement.
Right. And like even when you were like we were racing, like you would always like get up to where we could like almost like talking range and like encourage us like not from like yelling far away. Like I don't know if I ever heard you in the
I heard nobody in the race except Profe.
Yeah. Like your voice is very clear, but
My sheep will hear my voice.
Hey, there you go, man. There you go. Yeah.
I felt like a sheep.
My sheeple.
Very sheepish.
When he would be like, okay, Josh, go get blue. And, and that was
the
great.
shirt color.
It was great
Yeah.
for me. But was the worst was when someone other coach would say it to them, and we wore white jerseys, and you'd just be running, and you hear white's fading.
You're dying.
And you just hear the footsteps behind you.
Like a devil breathing down your neck.
White's fading. What? He hasn't got it in him.
He gonna die.
Oh my gosh.
And we were, obviously.
That's too funny.
Suffice it to say, with my career, I think I really started putting in the work that winter before track season and that summer. And, I saw pretty good results. I was really happy with it. And Profe was just he was there the whole time. It was really cool.
I mean, it is the improvement was jaw dropping.
Awesome. Good. Okay, so here's my next question. My next question is, what do you do? Have you come across certain students maybe who you feel like they just are just like have like a shell and they just keep everyone out and like like, what do you do when you're challenged with someone who just doesn't want to? What do you do with that? You know what I'm talking about? Kind of.
You have a comment on that?
Well, no, I was just gonna say Josh is using the bathroom.
Oh.
How are you feeling, bathroom wise? You feel good?
Oh, yeah.
Good.
Okay.
Yeah.
You probably should cut that out.
We don't edit anything out. It's all in there. It's raw.
No, yeah. I was just trying to assess because we're right at 30 minutes, so
Oh,
seemed like
okay.
a good time to ask.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do we just want to pause real quick?
We can
let
take
Josh
a quick
get back.
break, sure.
Yeah.
Quick
Don't
break.
forget your question though.
Okay.
Who's the sponsor?
The response was last
You're listening to the BnG Supercast. Stay tuned in. We'll be right back.
Okay. All right. Cool. We're back.
There we go.
We were gone. But now we're back.
Yeah. Back and better than ever.
Yeah. I want to hit real quick. I asked a question kind of before we broke, just about, because what I know is, like, for me, I feel like I come across people in my life who just put everyone at a distance. You know what I mean? And just if you've had any experience with that and sort of
How to break through in that?
Yeah.
You need the Spirit of God. So, I mean, there's people that have been like that I've been able to. God's given me the opportunity to get in, and then there's people like that it's somebody else's assignment.
Yeah.
But like, it's taking the time. People need to a lot of times when people realize that you value them, they'll eventually give you something.
Okay.
And that opportunity to show them the worth that God has, and that you can see that when they understand that somebody else appreciates the value that God's put inside of them, that helps them open. But yeah, there are some people that, you know, their trauma has not allowed them to open yet.
That's a good word. Holy Spirit and timing and really just loving people.
Yeah, and it's spending the time with them too. Spending time. That's the thing where, you know, school is great, classroom is great. I love that, but what I love even more is the coaching aspect, because, well, number one, people generally choose to be on the team. Sometimes their parents force them. So, you know, their choice alone opens up your discipleship opportunities. And then the fact that the platform of we're sweating together, we're working together. And even in this...
You're even laughing together too, like with the dudes trip.
We are.
Yeah.
And in this particular sport, the coach can participate with the athletes a little more than, you know, your football coach can't really do that.
Sure.
But I can do a lot of the things with them. Less now that I'm a little older, but I can do a lot of the stuff with them. And that gives a little bit of a respect level.
Yeah, I think Gabe would agree that you're pretty universally respected. I mean, on the cross team for sure, but like even just in general, I'd say you definitely hold yourself in a way that's very. It's respectful for sure.
Praise God.
Yeah. I would agree.
I concur.
So,
I second the motion.
Okay. How for you over the past 30 years, we talked a little bit at breakfast about how education has changed a little bit, right? And
Indeed.
Times are just crazy. You know, even since COVID, you know, we've the word that I hear repeated a lot is acceleration. You know, and you mentioned and yeah, we'll get to, I'm thinking of a different topic, but we'll get to that maybe later, but how has it changed? Where do you see it going? Where would you like to see it go?
You're talking about education?
Yeah, I guess.
Well, I mean, the whole 2020, there was a lot of robbery in the field of education. You know, whether it was deliberate or not deliberate, I'm not sure, but just the consequences of having people isolated, so much cheating went on online because, you know, you lose your motivation when you're alone, and it's like the shortcuts are easier to take and the accountability was less. And then, you know, that being out of the classroom, just people got in bad habits educationally. And so, you know, fortunately at our school, there was very little of that. We had that initial, March to May. And then we were present the entire time. So our school had a lot less of the robbery. We were trying to comply at first. And then that fall of 2020, we went to it, face-to-face education. So I don't really feel that people at our school were robbed. But the thing is people from other schools that transfer in to like, oh, I haven't done homework in 2 years.
Wow,
and
my word.
and that's high school kids that.
Not to mention the seniors of 2020, right? That was a big.
That's very, they had their season robbed from them, their track season, their baseball season, what have you. But in education, what we've seen is just people were used to things being handed to them, and it's like, hey, wake back up. But there's gaps. There's gaps. I feel like it's a little bit less in 2023, what I've seen. But of course, if you're watching any of what's going on in the news, the focus in schools is teaching a lot more of a social, I don't know what you want to call
ideologies.
Social ideologies instead of the just the basics.
Instead of the subject matter.
Mm-hmm. Right.
It's really, like, for me personally, I get angry because I see people who are not doing their job. This is just from like the news and stuff even, but like not doing their job. They're using it as a
platform.
Yeah, they're using it as a platform to like say an agenda. And it's not even like it's like the students are asking for it half the time or like they even want to hear about it. It's just forced on them.
There's no doubt about that. And it's intentional. It's a reprogramming of our culture or creating a new culture. But what would I like to see? I would like to see, I think education was God's idea in the first place. So, coming at it from a Christian perspective, it is the most important thing. I think the number one responsibility of education is the parents. Mm-hmm. So when the parents are working hand in hand with the school, and then, of course, as a Christian, the church is working together. So if you can have all three of those, that triangle working together, we're all working towards the same goal. I think your end product has a better chance at living a life that's integritous.
Okay. Go ahead, Josh. Go ahead.
Asking just from a slightly different angle of the same question. When you sort of talk to other educators, not at ECA, and seeing other students from who could transfer in, how do you feel like the standards are different? Do you feel like students know more or less, or differently motivated?
When people are transferring into the Spanish class, I see a lot of people that have to. I already took Spanish too, but I have to retake it because, there's some pieces missing. We'll just put it that way.
Do you think it's the students, the culture?
There's no way I'm going to say that people are dumber. That it's just like, that's why I call it robbery, because it's something that should have been given to them wasn't given to them, and they had things handed to them on a platter, or grade, a passing grade. And
interesting.
So
it's it's on the teachers, it's on the parents.
Mm-hmm.
But like when the goal of a school, like even in general, is just to pass these kids so that our school
gets funded.
Right, our school gets funded, and our rating or our funding doesn't suffer.
There's so much politics in that. To pass the kids at public schools, there's so much pressure because they get certain amount of money, and then people pull the kids out of the school, and so you're like, well, they're failing my child. So the system is broken. The system is broken, and I really don't have a solution for that other than. Go to
private school.
I do not.
Go to ECA.
It's
easier said than
if you
done.
have a parent that can teach homeschool or like co-ops and things like that. But
What do you think about homeschool?
I think homeschool is a good option. I don't think it's the only option. Sometimes I listen to podcasts and it's like, homeschool your kids. It's like, hey, there's
Not
also
for everyone.
Well, it's because because the whole podcast I will listen to are talking about more like truth of what's actually going on in our society, not what the television is telling us.
Yeah.
But sorry for that.
What was that?
I said television.
Oh, I thought you said television.
Television,
That's a good
television
one,
that tells us.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's
Yeah. That's a good word, though. It's not for everyone.
Well,
no, but
there's
yeah, I
pros
think
and cons.
right. And the pro is if your parent, has the ability to teach. Not every parent does, or not. Maybe they can teach this particular material, but this material they can't. And then, of course, socially, there's some things that don't have to happen during school, but like if that piece isn't being put in. But yeah, I'm perfectly good with homeschool.
Yeah.
You have the cooperatives and stuff where like, all right, I can't teach chemistry, but there's a chemistry teacher on this street and
Totally.
they're passionate about it. And
There's a lot more flexibility.
Mhm.
Now the cons
Yeah.
are you end up with a student like Gabe.
who's super intelligent.
You know what? You could have let me bring that up in a better light. I had different shortcomings. Yes. No, but I think like education is good and homeschooling is one avenue. I think a big thing is covering the social aspect of it and just like learning the soft skills of life. Like if you're building character in your child through other forms, if you're educating them like, oh, they go to parties with their neighbors, if they like do projects like community involvement, that sort of thing, ways that they can engage with other people, their age and different ages, then that's
Absolutely.
good.
Yeah.
That's
Absolutely.
good.
Because like there's a lot of things about the social aspect, even in a Christian school, that's probably not what you want. It just depends
Questionable.
on your friend group.
Yeah.
Do you
Yeah.
find students to be essentially the same as they were 30 years ago?
Yes. I mean, there are differences, but yeah, people are people.
Yeah.
People are people.
Yeah.
Can you go into that a little bit?
that people are people?
Well, like no. I mean, like how the students are the same. Like you never see someone do like a complete 180 in some way. Like because that fascinates me. The idea that their inner personality remains kind of consistent.
Yeah,
It just fascinates me.
I haven't gone too deep on it, so I'm just going to like try to dive into my mind. Why I think a people is a people. So we all have, certain needs. We want to be part of a group and a community. We all want to be accepted. So I find this even when I go on mission fields, like it doesn't matter what color your skin is or what language you speak. It's like you can connect with people because you understand they have the same needs that I have. And so like you go back to 1990 when I started, 93, but the 90s and the 2023s now.
Wow.
They all have the same. It's not like people are dumber. Like maybe, we've lowered some standards, but
Some
like
attention
kids
span
can
things.
stand. Right. So sometimes methods have to change. We didn't have YouTube back then. And I think that's a positive thing, but there could also be negative things with YouTube if that's that kind of things you're just
How
focusing
has
on.
teaching changed besides just the whole digital aspect of it? Is that the biggest one?
Yeah, that is the hugest thing. Using visuals. I'm not the big PowerPoint guy, but I do use the computer.
Oh, you love the smartboard.
Yeah, writing on a smartboard. That's been the biggest thing. But kids are kids, and everyone does have a hunger to learn. You have to elicit that hunger out
Stoke
of
that
them.
fire.
So I don't.
Stay hungry.
Yeah, kids these days. No, they're the same.
Well, yeah, and that's the great thing about them staying the same because the way you taught, like, there's some of the activities we did were so great, like the basketball. You remember that? Like, you would. How did you do it?
Well, I mean, sometimes when you're having a review game, you need to do something fun because, school can get drudgery and there's lots of things. So we've put a little competition into it. And so I don't know. I have several games, and sometimes I just make up a game on the spot with whatever I see there.
Like that creativity.
The hand
and
game?
Yes,
Game.
you doesn't even know that.
I don't even know
I
that
made
game.
that game up.
Oh my god.
Yeah, my
He has
wife.
a bunch of like plastic hands that he found at some
just
store.
random hands my wife
They're
found.
like- they're
you can put them
really-
on the end of your pencil.
Or the end of your finger. You
Yeah.
have finger hands.
Yeah, so we would set up.
He set
we
them all
we
up.
set. Go ahead.
He set them all up, and what was it? Rubber chicken?
And yeah, there.
Rubber
Oh
chicken.
yeah.
So you had rubber chicken, and depending on how many hands you knocked over with the rubber chicken, you only got to throw it if you answered the question right. So it is Spanish.
Yeah.
And-
We were using
And
Spanish.
then if you try and knock over as many hands as you can with rubber chicken, it's called the hand game.
What happens if you knock over a bunch of hands?
It's like bowling, kind of.
Okay.
So the more
strike.
points, so you get.
Then you get like a starburst or
So
something.
you get 1 point if you answer the question, but the teacher had to prod you to get it right.
Okay.
2 points if you didn't need
Just
no
flat
help,
out.
and then
Yeah.
you get an opportunity to knock down
Bonus.
some hands.
Sometimes
or
we
something.
should boys versus girls.
Yes, the Chicos versus the Chicas, I believe.
Yeah.
Yes.
Is that Spanish?
It's crazy how different like genders of Spanish words can be. So I know that could have gone a lot of ways. Genders of Spanish words like punto means point.
Oh no! Yes.
Oh no.
Yes. Yes.
And that's the end of
yes.
that.
Yes. Yes.
I'm not even gonna ask. Kids love points. I loved games. If you involved a game somehow, no. If you involved games somehow, I was in. I was sold.
Yeah, but there's no difference between 1993 and 2023.
Right.
They still loved
It's
it.
definitely
back
it's
then.
definitely a timeless teaching style. You know.
Yeah. And that's the thing is, it's like our younger brother Luke. Sometimes I'll when I'm babysitting him, or if it's just me and him, doing housework and stuff, I'll say, okay, Luke, you can earn points by doing chores. And he's like, oh, really? How many points can I get? And I was like, 5 points for the dishwasher, 10 points if you vacuum. Well, and I say you can redeem points,
This is called
right?
the nap game.
Right. You can redeem points. And I'm like, you can save up and get a big thing, or you can spend them right away for little things.
Like my peso system.
Yeah, exactly. I was gonna say your peso system.
Yeah.
How many points for the Bugatti?
A lot.
That's awesome. Yeah. Very cool.
There's something about teachers who try and be trendy that just hurts me inside. You know what I mean?
Josh, did I do any trends?
Well, here's the thing. The way
Go ahead.
Profe approached trends, he just, it's just his curiosity. We got to teach him a lot of new phrases.
Yes.
But he didn't try to be trendy. You know what I mean?
Cap. That's cap. That's cap.
Oh wow! I felt pain when you said that.
I love it.
No, it's so
my
funny.
gosh.
It's so funny.
That hits different.
Well, Profe, Profe didn't know what shade meant, and so as soon as he taught it, he used that word everywhere for 2 months. And he, someone would be talking, and be like, "Are you throwing shade right now?" Well, it was amazing.
I think it's.
I
fun.
have to learn new vocabulary as well.
Yeah.
It's fun.
It's a good time.
This may be a little bit of left field, so forgive me, for a left turn. I just want to talk real briefly, and maybe we can wrap it up with something maybe a little different, hopefully, afterwards. But you mentioned a book you were reading this morning.
The Return of the Gods?
The Return of the Gods. Yeah.
I am reading that too.
So this is actually really important to. I think some people know, some people don't know, but. Can you explain a little? Can you expound a little bit about
Sure.
that? Yeah.
So Rabbi Jonathan Cahn is a Messianic believer.
Yeah.
And he came out with a book, I believe, in 2023 or the end of 2022, and it's just simply called Return of the Gods. And I recommend it if you want to see what's been going on in the United States.
You sell it?
I didn't.
we should add it to your Amazon store.
Yes.
I don't believe I have sold it. I think I had to buy it.
Okay.
You had to buy it.
Okay.
Did I listen to it on Hoopla?
Okay.
I probably listened to it free on Hoopla. I recommend that if your
Hoopla.
local library has Hoopla.
Sponsor us.
Yeah, please.
Okay.
Anyway, Return of the Gods by Jonathan Cahn is a story of, he traces the three of the main gods of ancient Israel. I don't want to say ancient Israel, but ancient Middle
times.
East.
Yeah.
In that area, and one was Moloch, and Moloch liked
Child sacrifice.
Yes.
Right? Burning
Yep.
children. Yeah.
Yeah. And then there's Baal. Baal was a god of sexual perversion and promiscuity, we'll say.
Yeah.
And then there was Ashtoreth, and there's probably other names.
Sure,
These gods
sure.
take on different names in different societies. They're
Yeah.
the same gods. But he traces how the Israelites slowly creeped into worshiping them instead of the one true God, the big G God, Jehovah. And but then he all.
But in the Latin alphabet, Jehovah begins with an I. J.
Also goes through the history in the United States, how we have allowed these three deities to come into our society. And I just found that book very fascinating because it's a history. Well, I mean, he goes, I believe the 60s is where a lot of this stuff started coming into our country, probably before that, but he traces some historical things and specific dates and
Interesting.
it's eye-opening. And it just it just some of the crazy things that are going on, it just helps bring in like what's going on behind the scenes and not just like feel like, man, everybody's just getting stupid. Well, no, we're being deceived.
Yeah.
You look at the.
Go ahead.
Okay, sorry. You look at the ideology and the sort of the ideals behind these symbols of like Moloch and Baal and Astaroth and all that. And the symbols are not like around anymore, obviously, as far as I can know, not in America.
That's the thing is they're coming.
Well,
You look around Moloch. Well,
Go ahead.
yeah, I mean, there's Moloch owls around with some of our.
Is it owls?
Yeah,
Oh,
the
okay.
Moloch is an owl. He's
didn't
an
know
owl
that.
god. Yeah,
I wondered about some
Ted
people-
Turner has a giant one on one of his buildings. I don't know which building it is in Atlanta. You'll see this around.
Fascinating.
You're seeing Baphomet around. The Temple of Baal was put into New York City.
Well,
Like
crazy.
it's actually coming. I mean, it's been there, but it's
Right.
actually coming out like in your
the open.
face.
In the open.
Out in the open,
yeah.
Like the musicians, the Hollywood.
dang.
These gods are being ignorantly worshipped by some
Sure,
people,
sure.
but other people that are in the know are worshiping them straight
In
out.
the open, yeah. Wow.
They're trying to. It's predictive programming.
Yeah.
They're in the movies, but we don't know it. It's sort of like a Matrix.
Interesting, yeah.
Fascinating. I was just sort of saying, like, at least not until recently, these sort of symbols weren't a thing, but the ideas behind them are still, they just take on different forms, right? I guess that's how sin is, where it stays around. But I think it's cool to start how you're saying with the Return of the Gods. My point is that how those symbols,
They're subtle.
yeah, and they can be used to explain. Anyway.
Well, I think when you're maybe, I'm going to say immature, maybe not really immature, but you know what I mean.
Unaware.
Unaware, everything is ambiguous and gray, you know, and maybe like you find yourself doing certain things and you don't realize that there's stuff behind it, you know what I mean? So to distinguish, you know, to say, okay, this is why, you know, we see such a draw in this area towards, you know, because for Moloch, for example, that would be related to abortion, right?
Sure. Absolutely.
Child sacrifice.
Absolutely.
Kind of,
Yeah, Ashtoreth would have to do with Pride Month and all that deals with, and you know, Baal. We've had a lot of just the celebration of sex outside of what God created it for, and you know, these are values in our country that are being twisted.
Interesting. Well, thankfully, you know, unfortunately, you know, there have been some, you know, kind of like you said, how Israel was led astray. You know, there are some who are led astray. Thankfully, when we have the Lord, like, He's the one who leads us into the light.
Correct.
Like any kind of light. Knowledge, Himself, you know.
That's the beauty of the times that we're living in, because right now, I mean, I think anyone with any sense of discernment knows that the times are getting dark, but as the times get dark, the light gets lighter.
That's
and
true.
so as we as believers draw near to the light, it's easier to be a light to the world because it's so dark.
Yeah.
It's so dark.
And it's sort of interesting. There's always been the things we see now. They just haven't been
In the open.
in the open, and I think it makes it a lot. It's harder, but it's easier.
Yeah, and part of me is like afraid hearing these things, you know, because it's very like, it sounds kind of like conspiracy theory, like doomsday to like a lot of people who don't know about it, right? Like, and when you bring up to them like demons and like supernatural entities, they're gonna be like, I don't really follow that stuff, you know. But the thing is, it's like that making itself more present is an opportunity for us.
Like nothing's changed about people. You know, like people are still the same sinful creatures though as have been. It's just a culture change
Yeah.
where people just sort of like there's nothing new under the sun. Is what I'm trying
Absolutely
to say, I
not.
guess.
But these are exciting times because we have, instead of being afraid of it, we have the greatest opportunity. I believe we're at the foothold of the greatest revivals of all time. Now, is everything going to come back and be like 1950 again? No.
Yeah.
But as the darkness gets darker, we're going to shine that light, and people are hungry for something that's true, something that's real.
That's why you see people who are like, even when we hear like people like Andrew Tate, for example,
I
who
knew that
are
was coming.
who say things and are being kind of crazy,
Yeah.
but they're getting a reaction because some of the stuff they say, even if not all of it is what we'd agree with, it resonates. Talking about like masculinity.
The dangerous thing about overly emotional men is that they're dangerous. A traditionally masculine man does things he doesn't feel like doing because it is his duty to do them. He charges into the building because it is his duty. We're now teaching the new generation of men that they don't have duty and they can just act on their feelings and act how they feel. Do you know what happens when you get men who just act how they feel? You get school shooters, you get violence, you get rapists. Men who do not control their emotions are dangerous.
Versus femininity, and like saying things that like,
because they've been feminizing men for the
Yeah.
past
Right.
20
When,
years.
when you try and repress something like masculinity, you're gonna end up with people who are just these super hyper masculine, like reactionary figures, all of a sudden have a power before they never had.
Well, there's going to be a vacuum of power if you take the real men out of society, and who's going to fill up that vacuum?
Just
somebody.
anyone who
Yeah.
resembles that figure. You know what I mean?
yeah.
It's interesting.
It's a lot to think about.
Yeah.
You know, the cool thing is this, though. We said something too, though, today, which I think is really important. Is you talk about revival. You know, we also mentioned though just about how we talked about a lot of things. Talked about community. You know, and you mentioned that even with teaching, it's discipleship too. You know, and I think as the darkness increases, you know, we see these quote unquote times of acceleration. We're going to see, my hope and my belief is that we're going to see communities of people who are strengthened in the Word, strengthened in their walk with the Lord, coming together and sharpening one another, even like we do now.
And we see that with like
fruit.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
Yeah, and I agree with
So-
that. And I think people who aren't yet in the kingdom
Yeah.
are going to be attracted to that because they're going to see the phoniness and they're going to be attracted to that. And they're going to be prime candidates to show, hey,
You see that
there's
at
a different
JuicyJ,
way.
right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like a lot of people who aren't necessarily kingdom followers.
They're not in there yet.
But it's the community is a thing that attracts people for sure.
Wow.
I'm attracted to that.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're human.
Yeah. Well, that's our prayer. Increase, right? In His kingdom come.
Yeah.
Right? His will be done. So cool. Any closing thoughts or anything you guys want to add, or do you have any other things you want to what's it called, Gabe?
Closers?
No. What's it called? Like endorse or not endorse? But
Plug.
yeah.
Oh,
You got a
plug.
plug?
Shameless plug. Here we go.
Are you still selling fireworks?
No, but
so we can plug your
I
fireworks
recommend
store.
that you don't go to Just Because fireworks.
No bueno.
No bueno.
Oh, okay.
But yeah,
But
be
why?
careful.
It's mal.
It's possible that there was some stolen fireworks on their site.
Yikes.
Anyway, I be careful if you have fireworks. But
Yeah.
I mean, I definitely don't want to make any financial plugs.
Yeah.
But buy silver and gold.
Yeah. Check out his Amazon.
Profe, what do you use? Your skin's really good. What do you use?
Skin.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I believe it's.
Look at your skin.
So I started using this goat milk soap.
What?
Really? That's cool. Where do you get it from? It's like
What
somewhere
is-
far away.
Yeah.
It must be.
I believe
Made
it.
in China, right?
Imported to like get something so
No,
good,
it's
right?
local.
You know what?
It's local.
What?
This is shameless.
It's local, and I like local products.
Whoa.
What's
I
the
like
name
to
of it?
support.
What's the name of
You
it?
know, I don't like big corporations. Big corporations.
I hate
that
those.
Are Luciferian. No, this is local product.
called?
It's a mom of one of my runners. Actually, yodeling goat would be.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
The yodeling goat.
Yodeling goat
Are you
soap.
happy?
You want to go
That sounds
Subco?
amazing. I think I'm gonna go there right now to the
He's not
website at
invited on the next
yodelinggoatsoap.com.
Hold on, is that an ad coming into the screen? No.
We're not sponsored, by the way.
I do like the soap though.
Yeah.
The buckskin is my favorite.
There you
That's
go.
not what it's called.
Buckskin.
Buckswoods.
Close cousin.
No, what was it? What did you call it one time? You butt skin?
naked, butt naked.
That's a great
I
name.
think that's a good
Buck
one,
naked?
honestly, yeah.
That'll get you a lot of clicks.
Oh my goodness,
What
probably.
will you model for?
No. But
Okay.
I do enjoy the goat soap.
Cool.
Thank you, Mrs.
Well, let's do a quick closing prayer, maybe.
Absolutely.
Hey?
Okay.
Would you like to lead that?
I would love it.
Awesome.
I would love
awesome.
it.
Yeah.
Father, we thank you that you are the one who has injected life into us. And Lord, we know that you are the way, the truth, and the life, and no man comes to the Father but by you. So we are thankful for Jesus, and we praise his name. And we want to pray, as we just said, your kingdom come. We want your kingdom, whether it's with this podcast, whether it's with these young men and the different career paths you're taking them, with the people who might watch this, Lord, with our friends, that we would realize we're building part of your kingdom. You've given us responsibilities and just the privilege to be part of your kingdom. We're so thankful. Lord, I pray that you would expand our territory. Help us to have our eyes open to when you're moving. Lord, we're so thankful that you're doing a new thing. And Lord, as we think of the darkness and some of the craziness out there, help us to remember the light, how beautiful you are, and how spending time with you makes us an attractive light to other people. And we want to pray that you would open up doors, help us to have those kingdom conversations with each other as the body, but also with people who aren't quite yet to the point. Help us to be patient and loving and kind as you are. And we invite your blessing now. And we do pray for the United States of America, Lord. We pray that we would return to our roots as they were declared long ago. This is a city on a hill. And Lord, this world needs that light. So may we be part of that in Jesus' name. Amen.
Very cool. Well.
Copyright claim.
Demonetized.
Well, we brought up Andrew Tate, so we're probably already there.
Yeah, true. Already mostly there, so. Very cool. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Yeah,
This is
that
awesome.
was,
That was fun.
that was such a great idea.
It's really
having you on. If you enjoyed this episode of the BnG Supercast, consider subscribing, hit the bell, or maybe if you're feeling super crazy, check out our Patreon and make a donation. Take care.
Desesperado, llévame